Hey guys, I'm back with part 3 of our 1969 Ford Econoline 100 van. Now, this is where things are going to start to get interesting. Like I told you guys, our van is going to be a mobile bulletin board. It's where we're going to advertise when I'm driving around getting parts and going to shows. You know, just whatever I'm doing, I want to be representing. And on the side, I've always hinted towards, you know, I was going to do something special there. I never really told you guys what it was. Now, it's something that I've absolutely never seen anybody else do, so really makes me want to do it even more. Now, it could be because it's illegal. I'm not really sure. All I know is sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And that's the way I feel about this. I did a little bit of research, and all I really got is you're not allowed to have flashing red and blue together. And we're not doing that. Oh, I never really told you guys what we are doing. So I've been thinking about this idea about, you know, I've just seen so many advertising vans out there. You wrap it, you put stickers on the side, whatever you do to put your logo on the side of your vehicle. I've never, in my entire life, ever seen one that actually lit up. And what I'm imagining is cruising down the road after dark, the Dubs logo lit right up, looking beautiful. Now, in my mind, I know exactly what I need to build to make this happen. It's just a matter of grabbing some steel, using my hands to create my next one-of-a-kind piece. Now, I'm standing here in front of my fast cut CNC table because this is going to make my life so much easier. So what we need to do to start this process is I need to cut out the Dubs logo in roughly a 40-inch from point to point kind of size. You know, that's the space that I have, you know, in that area on the back of the van. So I need to cut 2 of those out. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to have a front Dubs logo, and then I'm going to create a box in behind. Then I'm going to sandwich Lexan, but before I sandwich the Lexan, I am going to take transparent wrap and wrap the Lexan with red where the red needs to be on the logo, and white in behind like the Dubs lettering. Are you following me? So if I do that and I leave myself an access at the back, I could install some LED lights. Now, when I weld it into the side of the van and I flip the switch, that Dubs logo should light up and look absolutely amazing. And once I paint the van, it's gonna be sick. It's gonna be the sweetest van in town. It's gonna capture people's attention, and that's what I need as a small business. So I'm gonna start that project today. You guys are gonna follow along, and let me know how I did. You know, step 1, CNC all our parts out. Step 2, start fitting and tacking together. Part 3, Lexan and lights, some paint, some welding, then paint. Got to get things in the right order to be efficient, you know. But enough talking, let's get after it. go over to the van and make a plan. When you're working on something like this, it can be pretty intimidating to chop a big hole in the side. But if you have a solid plan, it makes it a lot easier. So I've got to come over to the space that the logo needs to be in because, well, it's got to fit here. So I need to know how much roll that we have. Is it straight in this direction? Because if I want the logo to sit nice and flush with this surface, that means I'm going to have to shape the piece that I'm making. So when I put my straight edge up on here, you know, we are relatively, you know, about 95% flat here. There's just a little bit of rock to the ruler. But as soon as we start going like this, you can see that it is no longer flat at all. So if I can find, here we go, with a 2-foot square, if I put that on there like that, rough and dirty, it's looking like we've got 3/4 of an inch of gap on the bottom and 3/4 on the top. Now that tells me that I'm gonna have to curve my piece 3/4 of an inch. And you know what? Let me go grab the top of the Dubs logo. I'm gonna actually put it against here and we can have a better look. And then it'll become a lot clearer. So give me 1 second. This will make this a lot easier to understand. So the plan is, cut a giant hole right here in the side of the van and put this in here. And I'm thinking I'm going to have it at about, well, as much angle as I possibly can get. Now I've really been, you know, contemplating straight or on an angle, but I feel like a van is a big box. All the lines on it are straight. So let's kind of throw things for a loop a little bit and put it on an angle. I feel like it gives it a little bit of character. It's kind of like the back quarter of a muscle car where it raises up a little bit, gives it some attitude. But as you can see, you know, we're not sitting very flat on here. So I'm gonna have to curve this piece, but behind this piece, because remember I said that I want it to light up. So I need to create a box on the back side. Now, I could just pick a random number and say I'm building my box to 4 inches deep and, you know, start building it away I go, but that's not putting any thought into what I'm doing. I need to read what I've got going on here. So as far as my depth goes, you know, well, how can I determine what the best depth is going to be? Well, let's go to the inside and see what we're dealing with. So you can see here that we'll be cutting right into this cross member right here. Now, if I pre-think this out properly, if I ever want to finish the interior of this van, and I actually want to put some kind of like particle board or something on this, well, this curve, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, what would be my best thickness to choose when I make this logo? Well, right off the bat, I look at, well, how thick is this cross member right here? Because in my mind, the best job that I could do is be flush to this curve. So if I ever wanted to put something across here to make it look more finished, well, now my inner panel is also flush. So it makes nothing but sense to me, because if I would have, you know, chose that random 5 inches and really didn't think this out, well, it would be sticking out to here. And then when I go and finish all this off, well, it's sticking out quite far, where, you know, that's just not as good of a job as I could do if I really think it out. So staying a few steps ahead of where you're at is really the key to doing a high-end job. So I'll get a tape measure. I'm going to measure this. I got to factor in the 3/4 of an inch of roll, because I'm going to have to curve my piece like I was saying, so I'm gonna have to start with a piece wider and start whittling it down so I can get this curve. That's gonna be the hardest part of this whole job, is going to be the cutting this hole, because I'm worried that, this is just a piece of sheet metal in here. It's gonna be a little flimsy. So let's go back outside and I'll kind of explain what I'm gonna do. So right off the bat, I need to center the Dubs logo the best that I can. Even distance here to here, up here to here, right? Then I'm gonna take a straight edge and I'll run point to point, point to point, and I'll start putting numbers. This right now, this is just rough and dirty. This is a spitball in here. I'm gonna say that's a 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna write 1/4 inch here. This might be an eighth, another, 3. Whatever it ends up being, I'm gonna write it on the side of the van. I'll trace the outside of this so there's an actual outline of the logo. Then I'll have the numbers. Then when I actually create my part, I'm gonna be able to measure down. So I'll start with a flat surface. I'll be able to measure down whatever distance these are, put a little mark on there, and I can cut. And hopefully in the end, it will end up with a curve. What this is also gonna do for me is, when I do cut this big hole, if the wall does get a little floppy, I should be able to take a straight edge back on here and start getting my numbers back. So to have a good solid plan is the key to completing something with high standards. You got it? Good.
Yo voy a cantar esta canción, yo voy a cantar esta canción para mi gente. Con una pasión tan fuerte. Ay, 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 ay. Ahora sigo cantando y sigo gozando. Yo sigo cantando y sigo gozando.
Okay, I've got the Dubs logo positioned where I want, and as you can see, I started writing in my numbers. Now, they're gonna come into play at a later date when I actually build the sign and cut the hole. But you can kind of see that, we got some gap underneath here, 3/8 of an inch. In the valley here, it's 3/8. Up at the point, 1/2 inch. So this is indicating the valleys, and this one is up at the tips. So it's just the amount of distance each point has, because it's gonna come into effect when I actually build this into a 3D sign before we cut the hole and we sink it in. But that's gonna be left for the next video. Like always, guys, be safe out there. Peace. And remember, like and subscribe, it really helps me out.